the city tour, my friend. The city tour. I show you all the most beautiful places, the most beautiful square here in the old Havana and Havana Center, my friend.
Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful places. I'm very old. It's history. Havana is history.
Havana is beautiful history.
Yeah.
Hi, Lobo from Travels with Lobo, here to talk to you about my recent 5-week trip to Cuba, a discovery trip which saw me traveling from one end of the country to the other using public transportation and staying in the famous Casa Particulares. Much more about that in future blogs. In retrospect, it turned out to be a fabulous trip that revealed Cuba to be a social and political experiment that is still in the process of evolving, combined with a very ebullient and outgoing people, blessed by a Caribbean mentality and drenched in sunshine on a beautiful tropical island. It is hard to keep the Cubans from bursting out into song and dance that masks, however, what goes on beneath the surface. Cubans definitely have what the French call joie de vivre. Cuban women are attractive and love to show off how voluptuous they are. More about that in future blogs.
We have 5 traditional things, 5.
Yeah.
Number 1 is cigars.
Yes.
Coiba, Monte Cristo, Patagas, and Romeo and Juliet.
Yes.
The 4 marks, the best in the world. If you come to Cuba, you don't buy cigars, you don't know Cuba. Number 2.
While in Cuba, I was totally taken by the gripping narrative of La Revolución, which brought Castro to power in 1959. And that is still an ongoing process. There was the thumbing of the nose at the Americans and the ensuing embargo, the good years with the support of the Soviet Union that lasted until 1991, the survival of post-Soviet period that Castro called the special period, from 1991 to 1995, during which the average Cuban lost about 20% of their body weight. The passing of power from Fidel Castro to his brother Raúl in February 2008. It's all, as I said, a gripping story, and I could not get enough of it.
Number 2.
You smoke cigars?
No, not me, but it's the best.
Yeah.
I don't smoke, no.
No, that's good. I don't smoke either. So
Give
this
me
is,
1 minute.
in case you haven't noticed,
Un momentico, hacer.
this is my introduction to Cuba, to Havana. And I'm located in, I don't know where I'm located. I'm not located in Old Havana, unfortunately. I kind of knew that. I'm located in Havana Central, which is right by Havana, Old Havana. So we'll see how this goes. He's already trying to sell me a day tour, which I'm going to try and shy away.
My first blog was initially to have started with my arrival in fabulous Old Havana aboard a BC taxi. BC taxi is the name the Cubans call for their rickshaws. It was an auspicious start with a driver hell-bent on selling me a full tour with his lively chit-chat. Have a look.
For dancing salsa, our traditional dance in this moment with the Buena Vista Social Club.
Oh yeah.
The best show in Cuba and one of the best in the world.
Okay, what was number 1 again? Number 1 was
Cigars.
Number 2 was
Paladar.
Yes, Paladar.
Number 3, mojitos, daiquiris, Cuba Libres.
Okay, and number 4
Number
was
4, dancing salsa.
that's the salsa.
Our traditional dance.
So that's what Havana is famous for.
Yeah, it's of course, yeah.
That-
But now with the most famous with the Buena Vista Social Club.
Yes.
The best group, traditional music and salsa music. And number 5, the best of the best, city tour on the bicycle taxi for all the city.
What is your price?
My friend will make for 1 hour, 20 pesos, 1 hour.
1 hour.
The 1 hour, yeah. I show you all the most beautiful square in the old Havana and Havana Center.
Yeah.
And you go to enjoy, my friend. I speak in English, not everybody speaking English. You have lucky today.
No,
Find me.
You speak English well.
I explain everything.
However, I will have to postpone my first planned blog due to unexpected circumstances. I'm talking, of course, about the recent passing of one of the most renowned and controversial political figures of our times, Fidel Castro, on November 25th, 2016. For a legend, what I found curious in Cuba was a lack of images of Fidel Castro, as they're mostly confined to public buildings or government offices. The same could not be said for fellow revolutionary Che Guevara, whose images are everywhere, and to a lesser extent, Comrade Emilio Cienfuegos. Therefore, not surprising that upon his passing, Cuba is passing a law which would prohibit the naming of streets and public places after El Commandante. Nice touch, given that all communist regimes excel at the personality cult of the dear leader. But make no mistake about it, Castro ran Cuba with an iron hand through the PPC, or the Cuban Communist Party, to enshrine the Marxist-Leninist principles of the revolution, regardless of any hardship that may have been opposed along the way. Castro embraced communism in 1961 and wore the mantle well to the end. With respect to Castro, we all know the good: the social safety net, the medical system that was so excellent that exported doctors throughout the developing world, the education system that wiped out literacy, the housing for all. I'll be spending a lot in my future blogs talking about housing. The full employment, albeit at unimaginably low wages. The emphasis on the family, like I have not seen anywhere else. The social and racial equality. The safe streets like nowhere else in the region. And that's one that's worth repeating. The safe streets in Cuba that you find nowhere else in the region. To the political left, the positives, of course, are the way Castro stood up to the United States during, imagine this, 11 presidents, unheard of in the annals of politics. Also the way he resisted capitalism. Many Cubans are proud of these achievements, even if personal wealth is not a priority. And by the way, one can be appalled even today by the poverty that you find in Cuba. Now, most of us also know the bad. The lack of consumer goods that exists in Cuba even to this very day. All you have to do is walk through a government store to see the bare shelves. The food rationing system. People are lined up daily with their ration cards. The newly introduced two-currency system. One currency, the cook, for the rich. Another system, the Cuban peso, for the poor. In an egalitarian society, how is that possible? There's no democracy, suppression of human rights, incarceration or worse of political dissidents, repression against homosexuals that only ceased recently, and there's no free press because grandma, yes, grandma, says it all. It may have been a one-party system with no voting, but many people voted with their feet by leaving the island. It is said that up to 1 million people have made this particular vote, not to mention those who lost their lives trying to do it. And let's not forget a personal memory, the Cuban Missile Crisis. So in conclusion, what to make of the El Commandante and his 5 decades of reign? To some, he's a hero. To others, he's a villain. It depends on your values and your beliefs. However, one thing cannot be denied. Fidel Castro left the Cuban economy moribund. That has only come to life recently with the slow economic reforms introduced by his brother Raúl. that I'll be discussing in greater detail in future blogs. These reforms, however, are a limited form of capitalism. An example would be the BC taxi that I mentioned earlier. Communism in its purest form has not succeeded anywhere on Earth and continues to fail miserably in North Korea. But with varying doses of free enterprise or privatization, it has had some success. I give examples such as Vietnam, Russia, and of course, China. Say what you will, a refrain I heard often in Cuba was "Amo Fidel," I love Fidel. To many, he was a father of the country, the only leader they ever knew other than his brother, Raúl. Castro came to power in 1959, literally in a small, victorious military convoy that traveled from Santiago de Cuba to Havana, where he was welcomed as a hero along the way. Last week, the route was reversed. During 9 days of mourning, with a small military procession known as the Caravan of Freedom that carried his remains from Havana to Santiago for internment in a granite rock crypt simply marked Fidel. He was mourned by hundreds of thousands along the way. There is so much more to say about Cuba, but that will be for many upcoming blogs to be published every Friday. So check back to my site, Travels with Lobo. So see you next Friday. Adios.